Hello, Orchard Archivers. Thanks for plugging into yet another episode of Retro Trek with the Caramel Apples, your go to throwback podcast of all things 70s and 80s. I'm Kennedy Rizzo,
And I'm Cooper Lee.
and this week we have quite an exciting episode for you, dear listeners. We're going to have fun engaging in a fascinating discussion about the Hollywood persona, or shall we say, caricature, Max Headroom, where he always encouraged everyone to catch the wave. Hey, Orchard Archivers, and thank you for taking the time to journey back with us again this week. And don't forget to take a moment to subscribe, rate, and leave us a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts. We so appreciate your continued support. This week, as we've said, we have an exciting bit of nostalgia to tickle your ears with. So, let's talk about this Max Headroom character, shall we, Cooper?
I think using the word character, we should use it very, very often. That is what he was.
He was.
He was quite the character. So it's really interesting that he was so futuristic at the time back in the 80s, which was the height of his, presence, right? Was in the 80s.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the fact that he was so like today, it's really, really cool.
Oh, yeah. Max Headroom was no doubt one of the most influential caricatures or personas in pop culture at that time, as you said.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And we're really in for a golden delicious treat this week because, there's going to be some things that'll definitely shoot us back to 85. Let's get to it. Yeah.
Let's get right into it. So what you got there, Kennage?
Well, what I can recall, Max Headroom debuted in 1985, and I know you're going to be getting into some of the meat of that, but that's in our decade time parameter, so we're all for it.
Yeah.
He was a fictional character played by actor Matt Frewer, advertised as the first computer-generated TV presenter, as we remember well. Old Max was known for his biting commentary on a variety of topical issues, arrogant wit, which I love, stuttering, and pitch-shifting voice. Very futuristic.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So he was created by George Stone, Annabelle Janko, and Rocky Morton. Mm-hmm. Also, Max was advertised as computer-generated, and some believe this, but he was actually actor Feuer's wearing prosthetic makeup. This I did not know.
Yeah.
Contact lenses and a plastic molded suit and sitting in front of a blue screen. This is crazy. I did not know that. I thought he was completely CGI. I thought he was completely AI.
Right.
Harsh lighting and other editing and recording effects heightened the illusion of the CGI character. So this is what translated to us, the audience.
Which is like so amazing that here we are. Fast forward to the time that we're talking about this, and we're going, what? He was real?
Yeah, it wasn't too far off, was it?
Yeah, they completely nailed it. It's like, that's cool.
Yeah.
That is what is known as that movie magic type thing.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. The aim that they were going for, they nailed it because they had us, completely fooled. The public was completely fooled. And to even turn into adults and still look back and go, there's no way, really? I mean, so what, quite a fun fact that is.
Yeah. And it's funny because too, like we're talking about 1985.
Right.
like life was just very bread and butter back then. Like it wasn't, computers really wasn't a thing.
Yes.
I mean, like people still went outside and played, well, kids. People worked, like they had social lives, and so like this concept of a, AI or CGI generated talking head.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we were just like, what is this? This is just crazy.
Yeah. And I think what's so cool about it is that there was quite the premise, and his character was built on quite a concept.
Hmm.
Like, we're talking about the age of Blade Runner and a lot of sci-fi movies and TV shows. Like, in sci-fi, the sky's the limit, right?
Hmm.
If you could think it, then it can be that. So he was built in that kind of concept.
Right.
So there is much backstory to him.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah. So he was actually based off, his character was played by, like we mentioned, Frewer. I believe
Hmm.
that is how you pronounce it. And he was playing two characters in the show concept. But his persona came about in the fact that they wanted to make, I believe, like something to segment and put videos together. Like music television was huge, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
MTV was huge.
Yeah, it was.
And this is over in Britain. So they wanted to create something, I think, very similar to like MTV. And they wanted something to kind of um, sew or weave these videos together. So that is where the concept of Max Headroom came about.
Okay. Okay.
Um, and if I'm not mistaken, they gave him more of a storyline beyond that, because then
Oh.
he had his own show. They had a movie, I think, to introduce him into the show. Um, but he played also, I think, is Edison Carter was the other half of that. So he, Edison Carter, the human, was a journalist. And
Mm.
dear Orchard Archivers, if any of this you're going, that doesn't make sense, you're getting it all wrong. We welcome feedback. So if we're any time not hitting the nail on the head, let us know. So we're just glazing over this really cultural phenomenon, which was Max Headroom.
Hmm. That's right.
So I digress. Um, so the human side of this character, my understanding is he was a journalist, and he was trying to, like, as journalists do, he was trying to bring light onto certain subjects. And in the process of doing that, he was involved in a chase. He was on a motorcycle, and he had a really bad accident.
Oh.
And the last thing he saw was Max Headroom, which that is where, like when you go into parking garages and they'll say like max height or whatever, like, don't come in here if you're any taller than this.
Oh yeah.
Pretty
Uh-huh.
much.
Hmm.
That's what it says, I believe, over in Europe, is what it said at the time, was Max Headroom.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so that's the last thing that he saw as Carter. Carter Edison, however it was, is that other character.
Hmm.
So I believe his unconscious mind is uploaded kind of like on airwaves or radio waves or whatever, or television waves, whatever it is for that. So he is still like this journalist type person. He's just now a computer. And it's so fascinating. Like, that's cool that he's got all this backstory, and that really helps draw people into the storyline.
It does. And just to back up a little bit, that's what the creators wanted to portray when they presented Max Headroom to the public. It's Max's personality that was meant to be like satirical exaggeration of the worst tendencies of television hosts in the 1980s who wanted to appeal to the youth culture, yet were not a part of it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, so Matt Frewer, he proposed that Max reflected an innocence largely influenced not by mentors and life experience, but by information absorbed from television. There we go.
And there we go. And, you know, MTV was hot.
It was.
And people were tuning in. So this all kind of fit very nicely in what people would be drawn to.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
you know, then he got to be big, right? Like they wanted to know more. They couldn't get enough of Max Headroom. So then comes product placement, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So what we really, really remember was the fact that he was doing promotions for a certain soda company, and there were a couple that were vying for him at the time, and timing is everything.
Hi, Max Headroom here with. This is my guest. I heard you were big time in the old pop is. Well, I'm going to take that as a no comment. So, nitty gritty time. What I'm talking about, and you're not sweating. It's true. More people are, as we say, catching the wave. Catch it if you can. Catch the wave.
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now. If this episode entertained you, please share it. Spread the word. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your continued support. Now, back to the show.
Hi, Max Headroom here.
Okay.
All right.
All right. So with that being said, I'm sure people know exactly which two companies we're talking about, because they were both very, very big and popular at the time and doing some heavy promotions, you know, and anyone in advertising knows you get the up and coming or the thing that people are gravitating to, you know, then you're going to be like synonymous with that.
Yep.
And Coca-Cola, they got there a little bit ahead of time. And it's interesting because I believe there is also a commercial that actually includes Pepsi as well.
Oh.
So even if they weren't paying for the ad space, they're in the commercial with Coke as well. So, I mean, if people still, you know, went for either one, they were both seen in the video or, you know, the commercial featuring Max.
Yeah, because those are two very fierce beverage rivals.
Oh, yeah. So, you know, it actually worked out for both, I would say.
And, you know, this might be another, this is kind of related, but, you know, I'll mention it. A lot of things in pop culture, if products and stuff were presented, like you'd see more of that. Like, I think they still tried to conceal maybe a company or name, just like if they thought about it.
Yeah.
Like if there was a bag of chips or something there, they'd have it turned to the side, or a box of cereal, or a can of pop.
Absolutely. Yes.
But it is rabid now. Like if you're gonna, it's almost like you can show our stuff if we're sponsoring you. Totally makes sense.
Yeah.
But I mean, back in the day, it seemed like it was a little more not sloppy. It was a little bit more willy nilly.
Exactly. Yes.
Now they will javelin you to the wall if you dare show their gum or shirts or whatever without their say so. They're going to nail you to the wall.
Yeah. So tread very carefully, right?
Very carefully.
So what's so cool about all of this happening is this was something that was born in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
And my very, you know, infantile brain at the time would have assumed that it was here in the States.
Oh, yeah, me too.
You know, because I guess you kind of, if you see it where you are, that's kind of where you know, just no meaning any harm, but that's just kind of where you associate it. because this
Uh-huh.
is where I live. This is here. So, you're a kid. You
That's
don't put
right.
all the puzzle pieces together.
Yeah. What's global reach? Go ahead.
Right. Something you definitely want in broadcasting.
That's right. Listen up, archivers. No.
So you had the movie, I believe, that introduced him to everyone so that then they could begin using him in the way that he was intended, which was for lacing all of these videos together. So fast forward, that he is also aired over here and on Cinemax, I believe. And, when you got a premium channel like that, not everybody's going to have access, especially back then.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You're doing good to have the basics, like, and I'm sure Cinemax, you had to have those huge satellite in the backyard.
Right.
I mean, the movie Goldeneye with that Pierce Brosnan's oh crap. Come on, help me.
Are you looking for him? You already said him. Pierce Brosnan or?
Yes, James Bond.
Oh.
Sorry. But I mean, that's the kind of, at the very end, how there's that huge satellite that they're falling on. The thing is massive.
Yeah, how many cakes of batters of cake can you make in that thing?
Exactly. That's what you picture out in people's backyards. I mean, you had to have that.
I remember that. I remember those.
I totally went the long way around to make a joke, so hopefully it doesn't die. That's how bad it was. Yeah, these things were humongous.
I appreciate it, Coop.
Thank you. So those things cost thousands of dollars. We didn't have one.
No.
But those things cost thousands of dollars. And then to have the subscription to these premium channels, you're talking astronomical money.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we were good to see Max Headroom doing these Coke commercials. So that was how we were able to catch the wave. But also, the fact that not only was he appearing doing these commercial spots, I believe you could also get like notebooks, and he was on t-shirts and type of memorabilia, buttons. Because buttons, that was always a thing for people's jean jackets.
Yep.
New Kids on the Block, Batman, a Max Headroom button on your jean jacket. So the more buttons you had, the better.
Yeah, he exploded on the pop culture scene. Hardcore.
He did. So yeah, he hadn't, really reached the summit yet, because they had, I believe, a couple spinoffs. Like we said, now he's being featured here in the US. And there was even, some really famous people that were in these shows. I believe it ran for one season at least. And you remember Chris Young, the actor?
Yes.
I always thought he was a cutie.
He was.
he was in the show.
Okay.
So, here you've got so many components of the show and of this character that if you really only saw him in these moments, like if you saw him on a t-shirt or if you saw him on posters or things like that, maybe even in Times Square, who knows, right? Wherever your introduction is to Max Headroom.
Right.
Then you discover all these other things. They do have the DVD complete set that you can purchase, I believe.
Oh.
And that's really cool. But he's still very famous. And I believe, the rapper Eminem.
Yes.
He did some sort of satire as Max Headroom, I believe, in one of his videos. And Eminem, I mean, he's kind of quiet right now, but he had a really rise to fame not too long ago, which is definitely past the 80s, definitely past, Max's prime.
Right.
So he was still very much famous. People reached back and got him, even in the movie Pixels, not too long ago. I believe that might have been in 2015 or 16 or something like that. He was featured in that. So Here's something again from our decade time parameters that is still very much alive and well, because people tend to look to the 80s for things that were, popular. The 80s is just like this time period that if people didn't live through it, they definitely wish they had a way to go and experience it on a real level, not just seeing things from the past. Like, I think people would really like to live in that time at some point if they could.
I know. I mean, sign me up. Like, if that was really, which, come on. We are where we're at in the stream of time. Don't tell me there ain't some form of time travel available. More than the orchard, where we're at here. But real quick, Coop, I found a couple other references I wanted to share where Max Headroom actually made an appearance or whatever. They made a reference to him.
Absolutely.
1987, so 2 years after his debut, he showed up in the movie, Mel Brooks movie Spaceballs. And it featured Pizza, the Hut's robotic subordinate Vinny, and he was a parody of Max Headroom.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
And another one was in Crazy Frog Song Axel F, which makes you think of Beverly Hills Cop. And he uses Max Headroom's vocal sample, What's Going On, in the beginning of that song.
Oh, wow. That is what we're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's just going to say, the fingerprint. His fingerprint is basically all in the
80s. And we love hearing that, because we'll pick things that we remember. Sometimes your recollections are a little hazy, and then sometimes you're like, oh, I remember it's like it was yesterday. But it's still very much current, and people, they love the 80s. It's so cool.
Yeah, you're right. Well, this has been an interesting discussion, on the caricature, the CGI generated talking head, Max Headroom.
Yeah. Love it.
And, it's undoubtedly etched into our retro memories, the trademark and the fingerprint that he left in pop culture, not only just back then, but we still remember him and talk about him even now.
Yeah. And people, they're definitely still making him a part of, whether it's a parody or whatever. They're still, even as recent as 22, people are still reaching and putting him in somewhere and mentioning him. So here we are in 24 doing it again.
That is just lovely.
Yes.
So join us again next time, Orchard Archivers, for more retro amazing goodness.
Catch that wave.
That's right.
Love what you heard on this week's episode? Well, the answer is simple. To tune into future treks into the Orchard Archives, meet up with us here next week. Same time, same place at the Sweet Spot. And it would mean the world to us if you could leave us a shiny review and feedback. Spreading the word really is the best way to grow our podcast and explore more iconic memories. Thank you.